Good evening all. We're going to continue with our laser diode series over the next X number of things. So I want to do a short introduction first and then we'll hand over to Bob. So laser cutting and engraving. Now some of this is what Bob's covered, but I'm just doing a little bit of a recap to kick off this evening. And that we find that for the hobbyists and craft people like us, it looks to me as if the most popular type of laser that we would use is a diode laser. And this, as I say there on the slide, it's representing an inexpensive access point for those wishing to enter the world of laser cutting and engraving, and probably would cover, I would imagine, the majority of the work that we as railway modelers would want to do. So over the coming weeks, we'll be offering our experience into both machines and software, but our concentration, I think it's fair to say, will be on the laser diode machines rather than the other type of machines that are available. So in this session, we're going to take a closer look at some of the software required. And the software, I think, falls into two broad categories. As you can see there, we've got the software that produces the artwork in the first place, and then the software that we require to send the code in to the laser diode and to affect the finished result. Now, with regard to the graphics software, there's an abundance of software available, and I'm sure I don't need to go into a lot of detail. Inkscape, Photoshop, Illustrator, CorelDRAW, Affinity Design, and there's many more available for all platforms. And obviously we're going to need a graphics software if we want to design our own stuff. You can use Fusion as well, which we'll cover in a later session, but Fusion sketches you can use as well to create a graphics image to feed into the software that's going to run the laser printer. Now, looking at the software that talks to the laser machine and is able to send the required information to the laser. Now, the one that I found, which is a freeware which I've been playing around with, is Laser Gerbil, and it's one of many applications that allows the input of suitable vector and raster images and can put them into the format and drive the printer. I suppose its equivalent on the filament and resin world would be the slicing programs that we use, and it produces the file. Now, Laser Gerbil will also control the laser machine, and it provides good basic control over the machine, but only a laser diode machine, and it allows various adjustments of speed and power to produce the required result that we need. However, I found Laser Gerbil, a bit like other free software, it falls short in some of the more important areas that I want to use. In Laser Gerbil, layers are possible. And sometimes, I think, as Bob mentioned last time, you might want to engrave something, then cut it as a separate operation, and therefore you would do that in layer mode, if you like. So you'd have your first layer for engraving, second layer for cutting, or maybe more than one layer for engraving. Laser Gerbil allows that to happen, but what it does, you have to load in the file, the different files that you want for engraving and cutting. So what Laser Gerbil does in essence, as far as I can see, is it allows you to load in more than one file, and then it acts as a batch program where it executes those files. If you want to change the first file after you've loaded in, you've got to reload everything and start again. It's also lacking of a good material library, and you can't edit facilities for the image other than enlarge it or reduce it, or change it from, in the case of an image, you can change the dot raster thing on it, but you can't edit as such. So that takes us on to Lightburn, and that solved all my issues with layers, the order of the layers in which they were printed, and the changes to the settings, which Bob will go on to later on for us. There's also a very good materials library that allows me to store what worked. So if I get the settings for 3mm ply, I can store that for future use. I can't see anywhere that can be done in Laser Gerbil. And it has a very good graphics editor built in, negating the need for an additional graphics package to produce the image. That's not to say you might not find an image on the internet that you load in and start editing, but you can start from scratch in Lightburn with and design your own image. I found many other advantages. Regrettably, it's not a free, and the current cost for the laser diode for the Lightburn is where we get there. The core issue, when you look on the site, there's several versions. The Lightburn core is for diode lasers only, and it currently comes in at £90. Now, some people would say that's expensive, and I would agree, it is expensive. But on the other hand, as you can see from that image, and we'll see later on when Bob takes over, it covers almost everything that you're likely to want. So adding £90 to the overall cost of your machine is really, in my view, not such a big deal as it may appear when you first look at the £90. But of course, individuals have to have their own view, depending upon what they want to do and what their budget constraints are. Now, a final note before I hand over. Over the coming weeks, we're planning to talk about Lightburn and laser diode engraving and cutting. Now, this is not to say that other software and laser machines are not good. That's not what we're saying. But what we do believe in talking about is what we have experience in and which may be help of others. I don't, and other members who do presentations, we don't believe in regurgitating something that we may have read or picked up on a YouTube video. We rather pass on the experiences that we've had because they are real life experiences rather than us just regurgitating. Now, questions on other software over the coming weeks will be welcomed, and we will always try and answer as best we can in the same way where we concentrated on Fusion but still covered other software to the best of our ability. But if we have a member who is using a different system and would like to share that with us, then we are only too happy to set aside time in one of our evenings for them to do a presentation on the work that they want to do. And all I ask on that is please let us know by email. The email address is there. That's my own email address. Let us know so that we can fit it in. At this point in time, John is taking a bit of a back seat because he's tied up with various things. So I'll act as the point of contact for these meetings. And on that note, I think I will hand over to Bob, and what Bob is going to do this evening is take us through Lightburn, the overview of the interface for Lightburn, and show us some of the things that can be done. And then in future weeks, we'll go into specific details in much the same way as Malcolm and I did with Fusion when we'd done the button by button bit.
Good evening, everybody. What Lightburn looks like when you start it up, or almost when you start it up. One thing I want to cover first of all is one setting that you need to change before you do anything else. If we go to the very first thing we want to do is change it into the interface that we're going to all be using, hopefully, to go through all these different lessons. Or if we go to Edit and down to Settings, the very first button here is Beginner Mode. When you download Lightburn, doesn't matter which one you download, it will always have that beginner mode on. You want to take it off. So that's the only thing there that we're going to change at the moment on it. So now we'll go through what you can see on the screen. The area here is the work table where you do your workspace. You do all your editing and alterations here. As you can see, mine is set, my program is set to millimeters, and this is set to 400 by 400, which is the size of the work area of my laser. On the left, we have buttons to allow you to do different things, like create boxes, rectangles, polygons. You can cut bits and pieces out that you've already put in. Text, you can measure things, you can draw lines. We'll go through all of these separately later in different evenings. Across the top, we've got the normal settings that you would see in practically every Windows program there is, with open, save, import, etc., all the way along. There are some extra ones, obviously, because we're dealing with a graphics program as well as a CAM program. So we've got group selections, ungroup, positioning, loads of other things on here. You'll see that mine has actually got 2 more group settings here. We'll come to that in another episode. But the normal settings are all up to this cross here to the left. Then we've got the positioning icons. So the first 2 are the position on the screen of the object. The next are the size of the object, the starting point of the object, which we'll come to later, whether you want to rotate it or not. Then we've got the different settings for your texts. And then we've got settings for vertical, space, middle, and everything else to do with your text, moving it around. Then we have the rotary setup, which we won't be covering for a while, I don't think. You can actually put a rotary device into these lasers so that you can engrave onto bottles or glasses or tins, whatever you want to. Then we have print, so you can actually print different items. So you could lay out here and say that you had an image. You could print that image onto a sheet of paper, then put the piece of paper back into the machine or card or whatever, and then cut out around it. We'll come to that too later. Then over here we have the cuts and layers control system. We have in its cuts. Let me just move our images. We have the cuts and layers, the console, which tells you what your machine is doing in code, file list of any files that you're using, text, properties of the shapes that you're going to moving, and macros. I've got a camera fitted to my machine, which allows me to trace an image or use cut pieces of plywood that are odd shapes, where I can actually maneuver the image I want to cut onto a separate piece of card or ply that's sitting on the bed. It's very, very handy, that, and they're only pennies to put onto the machine. It's just an ordinary USB camera. Below that, we've got what's known as the laser area. Now, this is where you have all your devices listed and also your libraries, which you can see I've got a few here. And I have a few different lasers set up as well on mine. But the one we'll be using for the demonstrations will be the OTA LM3. Okay, Well, what I planned to do was to make a coaster, which is what I did. The original thing I actually did, and Russ did as well, just to please his wife, the same as me. We just engraved some coasters onto some oak that I had. So what I did first of all, I wanted the coaster to be 80mm square. So you click on the square, draw a square, doesn't matter that it's square or not. Then if you press this lock at the top here and put in the size that you want. So I'm going to put in 80. Oh, sorry, take the lock out. And 80. There we have a square 80mm in each side. Now, it has automatically put that square onto the black layer, which is down here. And you can see that it's put the layer here as well. Black. It's going to output it, it's going to show it, and it's got air connected to it as well. We'll come to that later. It's not set to the right speed or power. Okay, this is just a default that comes with the default of the program when you install it. You can alter it very easily. If you go up and double click on the layer button, then for this one, that's going to be a cut. So what we want to do is cut it. I know that my machine will cut ply and oak up to 3mm thick and 400mm per the minute. And here I'll put 80%. I never ever use 100%. I always use 80. I can always slow it down or speed it up. I can if I need to, but for cutting, I usually use 80. And you can see that the air assist is automatically on there as well. So if I click that now, you can see that it has changed here with the speed and power to 400 by 80. Right, so we want an image to go into there. Now the images that you need to put in are scale vector graphics, SVGs. You can put PNGs and JPEGs into this program, but there's a lot more work to it to get that image to actually show up for cutting on a laser. We'll stick to SVG at the moment. And all I did was I went online and just looked for an SVG that I could use. And you can see I actually got a load of JPEGs there, but that's an SGB there. And if I open it, it opens here. Now, I'm just going to shrink down Lightburn and we'll go through this SVG because it is important. Here is a free site. I'll be putting this in the chat later on to change PNGs into SVGs. Okay, so if I go in and pick the JPEG that we're going to use, so I'll drag it there. Now, on this site, you can change this into whatever you want to. We're going to change it into an SVG. But if I just convert that, it's going to come down to the machine, to my PC, with all those different colors in it. Now you can change those colors very easy in Lightburn, but you can also change it at the source here. And if I go back one step, hit this advanced settings here, I can put it black and white. Then if I take it across and convert it, it will come across as a black and white image. Okay, so if we go back to Lightburn, and I'll just convert this just now to black. So as you can see, it's quite a rough image. That it's not very good image at all for cutting, because it's got so many bumps and things on it. But you can go here and you can cut these out. So it doesn't matter how rough your image is, you can actually make it better. Okay. Now we want to put that into there. So first of all, I'll shrink it a little. Then put it across. Now it's only taken one tiny bit of it, because I didn't choose all of it. But choose it all. Oops. Shrink it a little. Place it in. Okay. So the image is inside the square that I drew first of all. But with that image, I want to do some more alterations to it. So what you can do is ungroup it, and you can just pick little bits of it. So that's another way of altering your image once it's there. But we'll say that that image is as we want it. And we're going to cut the outside square, which is there. But we want to choose all of the inside. We want to engrave this part. So what we want to do is, I usually just put it on layer 2. So I've highlighted it, clicked it, and it's gone to red now, the image has. And got a red token in the box here. Now to make sure that you change everything you want to, if we've got the whole lot selected there, and if we just press group. So now every time you pick something in the center of that, it's going to pick the whole image. Now for engraving on this one, I know that it was 1,000 millimeters a second, and I stuck it up to 60%. Now, obviously, these settings are going to change depending on the material you're going to be using. And in a later edition, we shall show you how to create a table of cut size, cut speeds and power, and engraving power as well. But for the moment, if you just take these settings here, that's what my machine will actually work at. So that is now sitting waiting to go to the laser. And on my machine, my laser has a home position at the bottom left-hand corner. So I would put my image down there, 1 to save speed, 1 and 2 to make it easy to set up the material that I'm going to put in there. So once it's set there, we need to send it to the laser. Now we can quite easily do that just by pressing start here. One problem we've got there though is that it's going to cut round the outside first, and then it's going to engrave it. Now, if you cut round the outside, it may move somewhere. It may drop through whatever base it is you're using underneath to stop the laser from burning any tabletop you're using. So what you need to do is make it engrave first, and it's dead easy. All you do is take the engrave, move it up, it automatically changed it for you. So now we're going to engrave, then we're going to cut. Another problem we have here, we have the engrave setting as line. There are different modes that you can use for doing different things. Normally line is used for cutting. You can use it for engraving, but for certain things. Or you can use fill. You'll see what it does to the image there when I click fill. And I'll just move it off. Or you can use offset fill. Highlight it again. So fill, offset fill. Now you don't see any difference there with offset fill. We'll come to that in another meeting when we go through all the different settings. So there we go. The machine now is ready to go and do this. But maybe we want to make sure that it's going to cut it in the right way or engrave it. This little television screen up here, if you click on it, it'll bring everything up. Now, obviously, this isn't going to engrave properly because I haven't set it up to do the image properly. But what you can do is you can actually get the machine to show you what it's going to do. Now, the black areas are where it's going to engrave, as far as this is concerned, and the red areas are the fast moves between them, the black areas. So you can see it's going quite way there. We can speed it up. And then when you're satisfied it's in the right place and it's burning it correctly, you just press OK. And then what you would do next is make sure that your laser is in the right place and the material you want to burn is in the right place. And to do that, you can't see that from here, but from where you are. But when I press frame, my laser moves and it goes round the outside of the image. And I look to see whether there's material underneath there to cut it. Then when I'm happy with that, I just press start and away it goes once I've set the machine up and prints the image off. So basically that's it, gentlemen, as far as just sending something quickly to the machine. There's the set that I made. As you can see, I reverse engraved, if you like. I took the background out of each one, and then I 3D printed this holder to keep them in one place on the table. But that's just done on oak. I did paint the insides of there, which took longer than the whole thing altogether. I did some other ones for other people. There's ones that I cut right the way through, because everybody that came to the house, once they saw the ones I'd done, they wanted theirs done. And then I had to get somebody, they wanted theirs with a tartan background. So that one was cut out and then just a piece of tartan stretched over the back and glued with just PVA.